Listen to me. I don't know who lied to you. I don't know who told you you're not enough. I don't know who made you feel like you had to become somebody else just to be worthy. But I came here today to break that lie. I came here to talk to the one who's been silently dying inside because they've been spending their whole life watching somebody else live theirs. You scroll and you scroll and you scroll, and with every post, you shrink. Every reel, you forget who you are. Every time you see them winning, you start questioning your worth. You start doubting your pace. You start replaying every failure like a broken record on loop, and you wonder, what's wrong with me? Let me tell you what's wrong. You're comparing your purpose to somebody else's plan. And if you don't stop, you're going to forfeit everything that was meant for you. Don't you dare click off this. Don't you dare zone out. This might be the realest thing you hear all year. Because if you don't get this today, if you don't finally understand the price of comparison, you're going to wake up one day and realize you spent your whole life chasing shadows when you were born to shine. I'm here to entertain you. I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm here to wake you up. I'm here to get in your face. I'm here to speak life back into you. So I need you to lean in, lock in, stay with me. Because this ain't just a speech. This is a spiritual defibrillator. I'm about to shock the real you back to life. You ready? Let's go. You keep trying to walk in shoes that were never made for your feet. You keep trying to live somebody else's life while yours is sitting on pause. And you wonder why you're frustrated. You wonder why you're exhausted. You wonder why it feels like you're chasing and chasing and still coming up short, because you're chasing something that was never meant to be yours. Hear me. Your journey is custom built. It's tailor-made. And the moment you try to copy and paste someone else's path onto yours, you lose everything that makes you powerful. See, you weren't born to fit in. You were born to break the mold. But you can't do that while trying to live like the person next to you. You can't do that while constantly measuring your pace by someone else's progress. You're looking at their success, their lifestyle, their timing, their results, and every time they win, you feel like you lost. Every time they take a step forward, you feel like you fell another step behind. But that's the trap. That's the setup. You've been comparing blueprints without realizing God printed yours with invisible ink. You ain't supposed to see it all right now. You're supposed to trust the process even when you can't trace the pattern. And I get it. It's hard. It's hard watching people around you level up while you're still struggling to get out of bed. It's hard seeing everybody else hit milestones while you feel stuck at mile 1. But hear me. It's not that you're behind. It's that your path was never meant to look like theirs in the first place. Some people get the spotlight early because they don't have to carry what you're carrying. But you were called to build something heavy, something generational, something eternal. And heavy things take time to lay the foundation. They take time to rise. You're not stuck. You're just planted. And the deeper the root, the higher the rise. But you won't see none of that if you keep trying to grow like a tree you were never meant to become. Stop scrolling for validation. Stop stalking their timelines looking for answers. That's not where your power is. Your power is in your story. Your power is in your scars. Your power is in every broken piece that you thought disqualified you. I need you to understand this. There's purpose in your pain. There's weight in your wounds. You didn't go through all that hell just to come out average. You didn't survive all those battles just to copy someone else's blueprint. You want freedom? Then stop comparing and start owning. Own your story, own your journey, own your struggle, own your pace, because real power isn't about getting there first. It's about not quitting on the way. It's about walking with conviction even when nobody claps for you. It's about believing in the unseen because you know who planted the seed. Let me ask you this. How many times have you buried your gift because you thought someone else was better? How many times have you sat on your dream because theirs looked more polished? How many times have you let insecurity silence you because you didn't think your version was good enough? Let me tell you something. You'll never be fulfilled living somebody else's dream. You'll never feel whole wearing someone else's identity. You'll never find peace trying to prove yourself to people who don't even know who they are. You got to unplug. You got to cut the noise. You got to get alone long enough to hear your own voice again. Because right now, your mind is flooded with too many comparisons and not enough clarity. You're carrying thoughts that don't even belong to you. Doubts that were never meant for you. Standards that don't reflect your calling, and the longer you carry it, the more you forget who you are. You weren't built for likes. You weren't built for approval. You weren't built to impress. You were built to impact. And the impact don't always look pretty. Impact is forged in silence, in struggle, in the shadows. But the moment you embrace your lane, that's when everything changes. Because purpose doesn't require applause. It requires alignment. It requires authenticity. It requires truth. And you can't walk in truth while wearing a mask made from comparison. You're not falling behind. You're being set apart. You're not losing. You're being prepared. You're not late. You're right on time for what you were born to do. But you got to trust that. You got to believe that, even when it hurts, even when it's lonely, even when the whole world is clapping for them and you ain't hearing nothing but your own breath in the silence, you got to keep going. Because when it's your time, ain't nobody going to be able to stop it. And when it's your turn, you won't need to compare. You'll know. Stay in your lane, trust your pace, own your difference. Because the moment you stop comparing is the moment you start living. You keep saying you're not growing. You keep saying nothing is changing. But the truth is, it is. You just can't see it. You've been so busy looking at everybody else's life, watching their wins, tracking their progress, obsessing over their results, that you completely lost sight of your own transformation. You don't think you've changed because you're not paying attention to you. You're not watching your own journey. You're too busy watching theirs. And what you don't realize is that comparison blinds you. It steals your vision. It distracts you from the evidence of your own growth. See, growth isn't always loud. It's not always flashy. It doesn't always come with applause or a round of congratulations. Sometimes growth is silent. Sometimes it looks like choosing peace over proving a point. Sometimes it looks like walking away from things that used to control you. Sometimes it's just getting out of bed and pushing forward when everything in you wanted to give up. But because it doesn't feel big, because it doesn't look like their version of success, you discredit it. You downplay your own progress. And that's dangerous. Because the moment you stop recognizing your growth, you stop watering it. You keep thinking you're behind because you keep looking at what someone else is doing, but you were never meant to keep up with them. You were meant to become the best version of you. And that version doesn't grow in comparison, it grows in consistency. You've been putting in work. You've been getting stronger. You've been becoming more focused, more disciplined, more self-aware. But the minute you open that phone, the minute you scroll and see someone else hit that milestone, all of a sudden, none of that feels like it's enough. You start thinking, why haven't I made it yet? Why does it look like everybody else is ahead of me? But what you don't realize is that every time you compare, you plant a seed of resentment, not just toward others, but toward yourself. And you can't grow while resenting yourself. You can't elevate while silently hating where you are. Growth needs gratitude. Growth needs perspective. Growth needs patience. And comparison kills all of that. It makes you feel like your hard work is worthless just because it doesn't look like somebody else's highlight reel. Listen to me. You are changing. You are evolving. You are learning. And yeah, maybe you don't have the money yet. Maybe you don't have the platform yet. Maybe your name isn't in lights yet, but you're becoming something dangerous, consistent. And consistent people win in the long run. Not the loud ones, not the flashy ones, the ones who keep showing up day after day, even when it feels like nobody's watching, even when it feels like they're being left behind. So stop looking for growth in someone else's mirror. Stop chasing validation in someone else's journey. Your growth is happening, but you got to be present enough to see it. You got to be grateful enough to feel it. And you got to be patient enough to trust it. Because the moment you stop comparing is the moment you start becoming. You keep watching what they have and calling it goals, but you don't even know what it cost them to get there. You see the glory, but you didn't live through the grind. You see the success, but you didn't see the suffering. You admire their life, but if you had to carry the weight that comes with it, you might not survive it. That's the danger of comparison. It tricks you into craving what wasn't made for you. It makes you desire something that might break you. And the worst part, it makes you forget that what you have is valuable too. You keep praying for what they have, but are you prepared for the pressure that comes with it? You keep saying you want their platform, but can you handle their problems? You want their visibility, but are you ready for their vulnerability? See, the spotlight exposes things, the shadows protect it. The higher you go, the heavier it gets. And while you're wishing for their shine, you don't see the storms they got to face just to keep it. What you envy might destroy you because it wasn't designed with your capacity in mind. And what they're carrying, they were equipped for. But you weren't. Not because you're weak, but because your mission is different. You're out here comparing weight without checking what you're built to lift. You keep saying, I want what they had, but do you want the nights they cried themselves to sleep? Do you want the betrayal they had to endure? Do you want the sacrifice of never seeing family? The loneliness that comes with being on top? The expectations that never stop? You don't even realize. Some of the people you're comparing yourself to are secretly praying for the peace you have. You think you're behind because you don't have their followers, their money, their exposure. But they're watching you, wishing they could go back to when it was just about passion, when it was just about purpose, when it was just about building something real without all the noise. You think they're ahead, but they're exhausted. You think they're living the dream, but they're fighting demons every night just to show up in public like everything's fine. If you want their dream, but you didn't see the nightmare they had to survive to live it. That's why you got to be careful. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful who you compare yourself to. Be careful what you desire. Because if you're not careful, you'll chase something that looks like a blessing, but ends up being a burden. You'll end up trapped in a life that looks good on the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. You'll wake up one day living someone else's version of success and hating yourself in the process. You were built different for a reason. Your path isn't supposed to look like theirs. Your success isn't supposed to mirror theirs. Stop asking for their story when yours was written with its own kind of power. You think you're missing something, but you're not. You're just measuring your journey with the wrong ruler. You're trying to fit into shoes that were never your size. And all that's doing is slowing you down. All that's doing is stealing your energy. All that's doing is keeping you distracted from what you were really meant to build. Look, I'm not saying don't be inspired. I'm not saying don't learn. I'm not saying don't observe. But don't idolize what you don't understand. Don't lust after lives you haven't lived. Don't compare yourself to a filtered version of reality. Because 9 times out of 10, what you're seeing is not the full picture. It's the highlight reel. It's the crop version. It's the edited frame. And you're out here feeling less than because your real doesn't match their fate. That's why you got to get grounded again. You got to stop looking around and start looking within. You got to remember what you were called to do and lock in on that. You don't need their life to be fulfilled. You don't need their gifts to be effective. You don't need their image to be impactful. You just need to be authentic. You just need to be obedient to your own assignment. Because fulfillment doesn't come from imitation. It comes from alignment. Some of you are stuck, not because you're lazy, not because you're unqualified, but because you've been chasing something that wasn't yours to begin with. And every time you take a step in their direction, you're stepping away from the direction you were created for. You're not failing, you're misaligned. You're not broken, you're just off course. And the only way to fix it is to stop comparing and start committing. Committing to your own voice, your own process, your own path. You don't need to wish for their blessing. You need to activate your own. You don't need to carry their cross. You've got your own calling. And when you finally embrace it, when you finally realize that what's for you can't be stolen, delayed, or denied, that's when you stop craving what they have. That's when the jealousy dies. That's when the insecurity breaks. That's when the real confidence begins to grow. Not because you're better, not because you've got more, but because you stopped looking sideways and started looking straight ahead. You're not late, you're not behind, you're not less, you're just focused on the wrong target. Recalibrate, realign, refocus. Because what they have might look good, but it might crush you. And what you have, what you've been overlooking, downplaying, minimizing, that might be the very thing that sets generations free. So protect your purpose, guard your growth, honor your journey. Because the moment you stop comparing is the moment you stop collapsing under the weight you were never meant to carry. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, you're giving away a piece of your power. You're leaking energy. You're surrendering focus. And here's the truth. Your power is in your focus, your strength, your clarity, your momentum. It's all tied to how locked in you are. But the moment you start looking at someone else's pace, someone else's lane, someone else's success, you break your rhythm. And when you break your rhythm, you break your results. You think it's harmless. You think it's just curiosity, but comparison is a silent thief. It doesn't rob you all at once. It robs you gradually. One scroll at a time, one thought at a time, one little moment of why not me at a time. And before you know it, your mind is filled with distractions. Your vision is blurred. Your goals are pushed to the side. You've lost your edge. Not because you didn't have what it takes, but because you gave your attention to the wrong thing. Focus is fuel. You can't go anywhere without it. And I'm talking real focus. The kind that says, I'm not watching what you're doing because I've got too much riding on what I'm building. But most people never get to that level because they're too busy watching everyone else. You can't build something great while being obsessed with what someone else is building. You're either executing or you're observing. You're either showing up for your life or you're watching theirs. And the people who win, they ain't watching. They're locked in. You keep wondering why you're not moving, why you keep starting and stopping, why it feels like something's always in the way. But it's not just the world getting in your way, it's your divided mind. You can't move forward while looking sideways. You're trying to chase your destiny while keeping tabs on someone else's blessings. And every time you do, you take your eyes off your assignment. You lose time. And worse, you lose trust in your own path. And when that trust is gone, everything crumbles. Because if you don't believe in your own vision, you'll never build it. You'll hesitate. You'll second guess. You'll shrink. You'll start talking yourself out of what you used to pray for. And now the problem isn't that you're not talented. The problem is that you're distracted. You're too distracted to be dangerous. You're too distracted to be effective. You're too distracted to finish. That's why comparison is so deadly. It doesn't just steal your confidence, it steals your concentration. It turns your purpose into a puzzle you can't solve because the pieces don't fit together anymore. Why? Why? Because they were never supposed to. They're somebody else's pieces, somebody else's story, somebody else's timing. And you're frustrated because you're trying to force your puzzle to look like theirs. But you were never meant to copy. You were meant to create. And creators don't compare. They craft. They lock in. They shut out the noise and they build. You want to know how to protect your peace? Focus. You want to know how to level up? Focus. You want to know how to finally feel like you're moving forward in life? Focus. Not 10%. Not when it's convenient. Not when nobody else is doing better than you. Full focus. Ruthless focus. The kind that says, I don't care if they're winning. I don't care if they're ahead. I don't care if their post got more likes, if their platform is bigger, if their business is booming, because that has nothing to do with what I'm building. So you got to understand, comparison is a distraction disguised as motivation. It feels like you're getting inspired, but really you're getting infected. You're poisoning your perspective with someone else's reality. You're letting someone else's chapter dictate how you feel about your own. And when that happens, you start making decisions based on them instead of based on your vision. And when your decisions aren't rooted in your why, they'll always lead you off course. That's why some of y'all are stuck. You're not lacking discipline. You're lacking direction. And you lost direction because you stopped looking ahead. You started looking around. You lost your why because you got caught up in their what. And now you're wondering why you don't feel driven anymore. Why the fire's gone, why your hunger faded. It's because you fed the wrong voice. You watered the wrong seed. And now you're starving for clarity in a garden full of someone else's goals. So what do? You refocus. You quiet the noise. You stop chasing and you start creating again. You turn the phone off and you turn the vision back on. You stop asking what are they doing and you start asking what was I called to do? Because that's where the power is. It's not in what you see around you. It's in what you carry inside you. That calling, that conviction, that fire, that's your compass, that's your fuel. And the moment you get clear on that, the comparison stops mattering. You don't need their timeline. You don't need their approval. You don't need to match their moves. You just need to trust your own timing and give your own process the respect it deserves. Because when you fully commit to your own lane, when you drown out the noise, when you stop dividing your focus, you become unstoppable. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally present. You're finally locked in. You're finally giving all of you to what matters most. Because the moment you stop comparing is the moment you start winning for real.